on, Tony, an overturned truck released 10 cows onto a highway.
Tony Kornheiser, wow. I bet traffic didn't move. Huh? You like
Really?
that?
That's what you got, really?
What an utter mess that must have been.
Oh, man.
Watch how I
wow.
milk this joke. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
You know what?
Let me do
It's
that
not
again.
as
Move.
bad as a Uranus opening, so I'll take it. I'll stay with you.
Okay, that's
I'll
good.
live with
Welcome to PTI, boys and girls. In today's episode, the MVP loses again, the Celtics get more good news, and the Suns and Bucks brace for Game 3s without big stars. But we begin today with the Minnesota Timberwolves blowing a 26-point lead and losing Game 3 at home to Memphis last night. At various points, the Grizzlies had runs of 15-0 and 21-0. The T-Wolves collapsed. Karl Anthony Towns had 5 fouls. He only took 4 shots. Wilbon, do you want to start by praising the Grizzlies for their defense, blaming Towns for his lack of offense, or focusing on Minnesota coach Chris Finch for not calling a timeout in the 21-0 run?
Tone, it's got to be something on the Minnesota side. And I'm sort of reticent. You know, I'm sort of reticent to just rip into Minnesota because they're a neophyte team. And they're making their first, trip to the playoffs in a while. Just their second trip, as we've talked about, in 18 seasons. So I don't want to just go crazy on Minnesota, which I think is a good job. They're an appealing team to watch, one of the highest scoring teams in the league. I think second highest scoring team in the league, but Tone. They just major in stupid sometimes. And I'm stealing a thought from our dear friend Charles Barkley, who after the game just said, I'm sorry. And he just went in on them, talking about how stupidly they play and the decisions they make, and you can't avoid it. Because you mentioned those 2 stretches, Tony. They had a 20-whatever point run and a 16-point they gave up. No timeout in either one. No time out. And they're not the Bulls of Phil Jackson or the Lakers or Heat of Pat Riley or some team of Larry Brown, or Pop that was San Antonio. No. They're not a team that gets to work their way out of it because they got geniuses who are going to figure it out. No, they appear to be dopes in large part learning how to play. Maybe they'll be great one day, but not right now.
Yeah. So the game is a complete disaster for Minnesota. It has the smell of a series that is over right now. I know Minnesota could win Game 4. I know that's possible. But there's blood in the water right now. Memphis closed on a 50-16 run. So I think this is I think it's a 4-1 series. I think it's done. I was so interested in what Karl Anthony Towns said after the game. He was asked how he would pick up his teammates, and Towns said, and I'm quoting here, "Go home, drink some wine, move on to the next day." Now that's exactly, Mike, how I feel every night, except because I'm in my attic. I can just stay home, drink some wine, and get ready for the next day. I can do that. So.
Karl Anthony Towns wants to be celebrated as a great player. And there are a lot of factors, personal ones, and I won't get into it now, that make Karl Anthony Towns a worthy guy to root for. And then, as soon as you start to root for him, and I find this interesting, players in the league feel this way too, you root for him, and then he just says or does something, and you go, the disconnect is so great between whatever's going on with him and whatever's happening in a game or the league that you go, what? And so look, Tony, I watched him say that after he said, next question, please. Like he was some great player. Minnesota, it's time to just be yanked off the stage. What was that show, The Gong Show, where somebody just come and got you with a big hook and they just took you off stage?
Show.
Minnesota, get off the stage now. It was fun for a while.
Gong Show was about 50 years ago. It was
That's
great
good.
shows, 50 years ago.
Yeah.
We just lost
That's
everybody.
about how long it's
Go ahead,
been
move
since Minnesota did something worthy.
Yeah.
Elsewhere in the West, the Jazz lost at home to the still Luka-less Mavs. Doncic hopes to play Saturday in Game 4. And in Denver, the Nuggets finally got a huge game from Nikola Jokic, but still lost. Now down 3-0 to the Dubs. So on which team suffered the more dispiriting loss, Nuggets or Jazz?
So, I was thinking about Utah and how dispiriting it must be to lose your second straight game to a team without its best player, Luka Doncic, who's, as you say, coming back for Game 4, and to lose that game at home. But I honestly think, Mike, that the more dispiriting loss is Denver. Because they got 38-17 from Jokic, and they couldn't win, and they're down 3-0. And look, no matter how you cut it, Mike, It is you have a better chance of coming back down 1-2 than you do down 0-3, and that's where Denver finds itself. And on the larger level, Mike, what these games showed me is how wildly overrated the Western Conference is. The Lakers stink. The Clippers this year stunk. Memphis finished second. They hadn't been higher than 7th or 8th in like 7 years. And now you have these two teams that are supposed to be solid contenders. Utah last year was the #1 seed, but they're hollow at the core. Denver doesn't have Jamal Murray, doesn't have Michael Porter, 6th-place team. Utah just seems to be, there's like nothing there. I know you love Donovan Mitchell, but Mike, he doesn't guard anybody. So,
Tony, not only does he not guard anybody, coaches and players are apparently saying in game, so that people hear about this, he's the matchup we're seeking, Donovan Mitchell. Which you can't have that, particularly at this point of your career. Tony, it's Utah who just suffered the more dispiriting loss because they're at home and they lose to a team without Doncic, and they're going away. See, Minnesota's not going to go away. Minnesota can repair this. They got young players, a couple of stars. They can repair this over time if those guys smarten up. Tone, Utah's going away. Kaboom. What are you going to do? Rudy Gobert can't even play in the series. Donovan Mitchell and Rudy Gobert are your best two players, and they're being victimized. And they can't beat Dallas without Doncic. They're going to limp away, and we're not going to see them like this as a team come next year. We're just not.
Let's move to the NHL, where a series of recent articles pointed out that scoring is way up. Just last weekend, more goals were scored, 153, than in any other weekend ever. And for the whole season, teams are averaging more goals than they have since 1996. Now, Wilbon, you worship at the altar of defense in sports.
Yeah.
Is hockey better with more offense and less defense?
Tony, I think it is for this one primary reason. And you know, when I covered a fair bit of hockey for the Washington Post, the thing that I railed against and wrote columns about year after year after year after year were there's so many skilled players from around the world. Hockey, unlike pro football, is truly a global and international sport. And you get skilled players from every corner of the world who seek to play in the NHL. And what's happened, thankfully, Tony, is the third and fourth lines, which were enforcers and goons largely, those people are gone. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I know Don Cherry's rolling over in his grave, but those people are gone, and they have made way for skilled players. The other things like the pads on goaltenders, getting smaller. You had an expansion, which always weakens things in every sport, as you know, because we concentrate on that with baseball and football. But Tone, the skill level in hockey, the wraparound goals, the things we see that we didn't see decades ago, and it's not as much scoring as the 80s and the 90s. It's not. So there's a happy medium there, but I like this better because of the skilled players, the influx of skilled players from all over the world to the NHL showing what they can do.
So one of the examples of that is Trevor Zegras, who is to the NHL what Fernando Tatis Jr. is to baseball. I mean, there's a lot of showmanship in what he does. And as you say, the pads have been shaved down. Expansion may have diluted some of the talent, though it seems to me it would have diluted it on offense as well as defense. So I'm not sure about that. Look, I'm not a hockey expert. I don't know how important any one of these things is. But if you ask me, would I rather watch a soccer game or a football game, I'd rather watch a football game. I'd rather watch offense. I don't want 9-6. We're not getting 9-6. But I'd rather have 4-2 than 1-0, except maybe in the playoffs. So I'm good with this.
Yeah.
I'm good with it.
I am too.
Let's take a break.
Yep.
Coming up, did Hornets coach James Borrego really deserve to get the axe?
And what's the word for the Suns if they lose again tonight? We're not trying to entertain that thought here, Tony, in the desert. We're not going to what if the Suns lose.
So you're saying you're taking the long-term view on Utah, saying they're done and Denver can come back. I took the short-term view because they went down 0-3. So they're done now.
Yeah. No, that's right. And I was talking about Minnesota. Minnesota can still round into something and evolve into something good.
Time to unleash Tony Thesaurus Rex. I like that. What's first?
It's blank that the Charlotte Hornets fired Coach James Borrego.
It's harsh. I understand that he had a losing record over 4 seasons. It was 148 and 183. And the two teams that he got into the play-in game, they got absolutely drilled. Indiana the other year beat Charlotte by 27. Atlanta beat Charlotte this year by 29. But there's always a but here, Mike. Borrego won 10 more games last year than the year before. And then 10 more games this year than last year. That's plus 20 over 2 years. And Gordon Hayward missed about 30 or more games, and he's one of their best players. I mean, I thought he probably did a good job. It feels to me, Mike, like he's getting fired for what happened in the play-in games.
Yes.
And I think that's a little extreme.
Maybe, Tone, but as we know, of course, the roof is the ceiling for people who might have forgotten that. Now, so that
Ceiling's
leads
the
to
roof.
my word, which is ceiling. Is the roof the ceiling or the ceiling the roof? So,
No, the
Tony,
ceiling is the roof.
The ceiling is the roof. Well, the ceiling is being raised. It's ceiling raising. That's what the word is. Because you can't lose the play-ins. These are you said it's the postseason last week. If it's the postseason and you lose twice by essentially 30, look, sometimes a coach takes you as far as he can take you, and then you need another person to sort of finish the job. I think that's where Charlotte is. I know Borrego's done a good job, pretty thorough job, Tony, in getting them to a certain point. And now to finish this job, I think it's going to be the job of another coach, and I understand that. So it's ceiling raising.
What's next? What's next?
If the Suns lose again tonight, they're blank.
My word is nearly toast. They haven't popped up yet so that you could put butter on them. They're still down in the valley of the toaster, and the warming cycle is going on. Yeah, I said the valley deliberately. They're going to have to win without Devin Booker. He's their best player. I don't know that they can necessarily win without their best player at this point. The other team has McCollum, and who else do they have? Brandon Ingram.
Brandon Ingram,
and
most importantly.
Phoenix is left depending on Chris Paul in the playoffs, and we know disasters have befallen Chris Paul in the playoffs. They have to win one game in New Orleans, and they're in a bad spot.
Well, they don't have to, but I will say this, they'll be pressed. They'll be pressed if they lose this game. I don't think they're going to lose this game. I think the Suns are going to win this game. I think we're going to see the reason the Suns won 64 games and were the best team in the regular season. And while Booker is the best player on that team, he ain't the only player on that team. And guys are going to have to scramble and dig in and play defense and not give 37 points to Brandon Ingram, which is what happened in Game 2. And I think they can do all those things. And I think Monty Williams and Chris Paul know how to rally a team. I know they know how to rally a team. And so they'll rally all those pieces that folks don't want to think about because they go, well, wait a minute, they're Chris Paul and Booker. Yeah, but they got some others, right? And we're going to see those others tonight, starting with Ayton, and they're going to win this Game 3.
We'll see. That's the final word. Let's take one last break. Still to come, the Celtics get some optimistic news for tomorrow's Game 3.
And will my Bulls beat the Bucks again tonight? Series in Chicago, gonna be loud and
over the new nickname in Cleveland. I know it's the Guardians. It's a terrible name. Anyway, Francona is now the winningest manager in Cleveland baseball history. He has 760 wins there and was the American League Manager of the Year twice there in 2013 and 2016. By virtue of Bob Melvin leaving Oakland for San Diego, Francona is now the longest tenured manager in baseball. He's in his 10th season in Cleveland, which of course doesn't compare to Bill Belichick or Greg Popovich. Francona, though, is still best known for managing the Red Sox to World Series titles in 2004 and 2007. At the University of Arizona, Francona won a College World Series and was the Golden Spikes Award winner as the best college player in 1980. He played 10 seasons in the bigs at first base and outfield, and he batted .274.
So on that college career makes him a little comfortable when he has spring training for some number of weeks here in Arizona. Terry Francona is just one of my favorite people in baseball, one of our favorite PTI guests over a stretch of time. And, you know, I want him to somehow get to, at some point, manage the Cubs. I don't want to make a change now. Maybe it'll never happen. But I just, there's something about that, to me, that seemed meant to happen over a period of time. Maybe it still will.
You're firing Rossi. Unbelievable.
I know, I said
not so
no, I don't
happy
want any
anniversary,
changes.
New York Jets. We know what you said. On this day, 27 years ago, Jets fans inside the Paramount Theater above Madison Square Garden loudly chanted, "We want Sap," when the Jets' turn came to make their first-round pick at number 9. But instead of drafting Warren Sapp, the Jets picked tight end Kyle Brady. Sapp fell to number 12 where Tampa Bay took him. Here's how it worked out. Sapp made the Pro Bowl 7 times. He was first-team All-Pro 4 times. He was on a Super Bowl champion in Tampa Bay, and he's in the Hall of Fame. Brady played 13 seasons. He was durable, but he never made a Pro Bowl, and he caught only 25 touchdown passes. It was so great when the draft was held in New York City, and Giants and Jets fans booed everyone their teams drafted, which reminds me, the draft is next week. Wilbon, have you finished your 2-round mock draft yet?
Yeah, I don't care about that. You know what would make Sapp even happier than sort of a tribute to Warren Sapp? If we showed the video of the trampoline bear. Remember in the early days of PTI? Running a Sapp who would always go to a lot of NBA playoff games this time of year. And Sapp would just come up and say, Wilbon, the bear, come on, seriously. You've gone a week without the trampoline bear. And you egged him on. You like that bear video too, both of you.
I do. A melancholy trails to Guy Lafleur. The Montreal Canadiens' legendary scorer has died at age 70. On any list of the greatest Canadiens, you start with Maurice Richard, Jean Beliveau, and Guy Lafleur. Hockey writer Red Fisher called Lafleur, quote, one of those rare talents who was a man even when he was a boy, unquote. And Fisher wrote, quote, most of all, he was uniquely Lafleur, the flower, delicate yet indestructible. Lafleur was a 5-time Stanley Cup champion in Montreal. He learned hockey on a rink his father built in the family's backyard in western Quebec. Lafleur's teammate Ken Dryden wrote that Lafleur would practice by himself, sneaking into a local ice rink on weekend mornings by 7:30, and kept going until the manager arrived at 11. Lafleur led the NHL in scoring 3 times, had 6 straight 50-goal seasons. Lafleur's number 10 sweater hangs from the rafters in the Bell Center in Montreal. Over his career, Lafleur had 560 goals and 793 assists, averaging over a point a game.
So I just remember Lafleur, that image right there. You talk about rushing up ice and his hair blowing in the breeze. He's going so fast, he could create his own jet stream. And there was a generation of players that was led by Lafleur. And people can say Bobby Hull, I would, because I was watching in Chicago as a kid. But Lafleur won. And I think he went right through the Blackhawks at least once, maybe twice, in the Stanley Cup Finals. Again, one of the all-time greats. And just because it happened a while ago doesn't mean that we shouldn't pay attention whenever we can to someone who had the skill and the flair and the showmanship of Guy Lafleur.
And a melancholy trails as well to Darryl LaMonica. The Oakland Raiders quarterback has died at age 80. Nicknamed the Mad Bomber for his affinity for the deep pass, LaMonica was twice the MVP of the pre-merger AFL and led the Raiders to their first Super Bowl appearance in 1967. The offensive philosophy of the Al Davis Raiders was embodied in LaMonica. Go long, score quick. Out of Notre Dame, LaMonica began his career backing up Jack Kemp on the Buffalo Bills. He was traded to the Raiders where he was an instant fit in the vertical offense. Between 1967 and 1972, LaMonica led all of pro football with 145 touchdown passes, 24 more than Fran Tarkenton. LaMonica was the Raiders quarterback in 1968 in the famous Heidi game, where nobody saw the Raiders' last-minute comeback because NBC cut away from the game